Hello and welcome back to Zero Cool Gaming, and today we're going to be doing a review of a video game called Fate, Undiscovered Realms.
For the grateful townsfolk, the appearance of a mysterious stranger casts a shadow across the festivities. The stranger, a withered old man, hunched over his gnarled cane, speaks cryptically of new evil to befall Grove, of ancient secrets locked within a temple buried deep inside the dungeon's catacombs, of gateways to undiscovered realms. He weaves enchanting tales of the wealth and glory to be found in these mysterious realms. Druantia, the land of verdant forests. Typhon, with cities of ice long since fallen from the clouds. Aquitus, where murky waters entomb lost souls. And Prometheus, a world of cracked earth and flaming towers. Finally, he speaks of chaos, the realm of eternal turmoil. Of the temple's secrets, he divulges only the greatest. Hidden within is an ancient tome, the Book of Fate, which maintains the balance between these realms. Within its pages lies the key to Grove's salvation.
Now, I never played the first one, and I never played any others either, but I did play this one. This is the second one in the series. And from what I can gather, they're all about the same. These are, they call them action RPGs. I call them looter RPGs. You clear a dungeon, you try to find all the loot you can, you make some money, you get some experience, you, as you level up, you get points that you can spend on different attributes. You level up your attributes, and then you get different creatures that you can, or pets that you can take with you. Your pets are basically your pack mules. They'll haul all of the items that you find that you don't equip onto yourself. Of course, you also have some items that you keep on yourself as well. And then when you get back to town, you can sell all that for more money. You can take on new quests as you clear old quests. And the quests are basically for each level of the dungeon. And each level of the dungeon gets a little more difficult as you go through the game, obviously. So you have 2 realms. Each realm has 27 levels to their dungeons. And the whole game will take you, 10 to 20 hours to get through it, depending on how you play it. Some dungeon levels can be completed rather quickly in just a couple of minutes, while others may take you a half hour because of the size of the level itself. Most levels are 15-20 minutes if you're completing all of them. In other words, exploring the entire area that you're given, removing all the creatures from that area, completing, each of the quests for that area. As long as you're doing all of that, you'll level up properly for each area that you're going into. Once you get down to the bottom level of the dungeon, there's a main boss for that area. Once you've defeated it, then you go on to the next realm, and you do the same thing all over again. And you'll take that all the way down to the bottom and defeat that boss, and you defeated the undiscovered realms. So the storyline is pretty basic in this game. Essentially, you're a adventurer, and you find this old city. And when you enter the temple to this old city, you find the Book of Fate, and by opening it, you released an evil upon the realms, and that evil um, basically curses you, is a way of putting it, and you become the fated hero, and you have to purge the realms of the evil that you released and reacquire the Book of Fate in the process. And of course, return it to where it belongs. And that's really the story for this particular game. So, as you go through this game, there's a lot of different aspects to it. Truly, all sorts of different aspects to it. You have relics that you can collect. You have fate cards that you can basically gamble with. Sometimes you'll get good items. Most of the time you will not. You don't get a whole lot of fate cards, but it's all random regardless. You've got fishing in this game, which I think is pretty cool. If you really want to find all of the super rare items, that's how you do it. If you fish at every spot that it allows you to fish at, you'll, through 27 levels, I think I found like 6 rare items total. Each one's a little different, whether it be a weapon or a, armor or shield or something that affect boots, you name it. But if you fish at every one of them, you'll find all the rare items that you can for that realm. And rare items are pretty good. They're usually, maybe 5 to 10 levels above where you currently are. Some rare items you can use for the entire realm, depending on what item that is. You'll usually get those like halfway through the realm. So when you're, your first realm and you're on like dungeon level 16, and you find a rare item that's a particular type of armor, you may wear that same armor for the rest of that realm, just because of how good that particular armor is. Some stuff can be leveled up as you go or added to. You can take it to the blacksmith and you can, add things to it. There's never any lacking of stuff to do in this game. There's always something to do. And that's one of the things that I liked about this game. It's not a difficult game by any stretch of the imagination. You don't have to do any of the extras to get through it at all. It just makes the game a little bit easier if you do. If the item shops in that respect, if you go to them and you need a more powerful weapon, there'll always be one there available for you to purchase that's a little more powerful. If you're just using common items the whole way through, sometimes your enemies will drop, really good items as well. Better weapons, better, armor, that sort of thing, better helmets. It really just depends on whether or not you remember to take on all the different quests, which you really should remember to do. Complete all of those quests and clear out each of the dungeons completely before you move on to the next level of the dungeon. If you're actually doing all of that, just that alone, you'll easily be leveled up enough to defeat this whole game. It's kind of hard to mess that up. There will be a few bosses here and there that require certain items to be used to prevent them from healing themselves or prevent them from summoning, just massive amounts of minions to kill you, these sorts of things. But you'll find that those items will always be available just before you actually face those foes. So if you're paying attention and reading the different, new items that are available, that sort of thing, You'll figure out pretty quickly, especially the way this game kind of teaches you, that, well, I guess I should say you'll figure out rather quickly what you do and do not need. Other than that, though, I mean, it's a really basic game. There's nothing really difficult about any of it. And that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's designed for everyone. It's an ten years old plus game. So it's supposed to be for everyone that's 10 years old or older. So they have to make it, relatively simple for younger kids to understand it. Teenagers, I don't think would have any problem understanding it at all. As an adult, I found it relatively easy. It doesn't mean that it's not enjoyable. I mean, there's a lot of cute things that are within this game. You got some pretty cool monster types. And you got several different types of monsters, which is another thing that I like about it. It doesn't just keep throwing the same thing at you over and over and over again. I mean, it does, but there's enough variation that it doesn't feel like it. Excuse me. When you first start the game, you've got two different realms that you can go to. One's a forest realm, basically, and the other one's an ice realm. It doesn't matter which one you start with, because no matter which one you start with, it'll start at level 1. And then when you go to the next one, it starts at level basically 30 and goes on from there. Actual levels of the creatures that you'll be facing. You yourself don't have to be a level 30 to take on a level 30 creature. You can be a few levels below, anywhere from 3 to 5 levels below, and you're fine. Any more than that, you'll probably have difficulties. If you're running through the levels of the dungeon and you're not completing them, and let's say you get down to level 27 of the first realm that you go to, and you're a level, 19, you might not actually be able to complete that level of the dungeon. You may need to level up a little bit more before you can make any more progress. And that's truly designed that way, specifically so that when you go to the next realm, you're not so underleveled that you die right off when you enter the dungeon. And in truth, the hardest part of this game is the very beginning of it. When you are just starting out, it's very easy to die. It's very easy to lose all of your life points. It's very easy to be under-equipped. But once you get to like level 20, if you understand what you're doing and you've been, leveling up your equipment and leveling up your items and getting, better and better stuff as you go along, it starts to get really easy from that point forward. So it really matters about how you play the game and how easy you want to make it on yourself. If you're clearing all the levels like I did, by the time you get down to the 27th level of the dungeon, you'll be a level 38, 39. So when you start the next realm, you'll be a few levels ahead or above what you need to be, making it relatively easy as well. By the time you finish both of them, you can be as high as a level 90, probably more if you really wanted to work at it. You can do some grinding in this game. I never went that far. I think when I completed the game, I was a level 82. So, not super high level, but not super low level. But I was certainly way above level for what I was fighting against by that point. I went out of my way to do as many quests as possible, even repeating dungeon levels so that I could acquire more experience points. So I guess you could say I did a little bit of grinding, but not a whole lot. I didn't like the very beginning of the game. I didn't like the fact that I was so weak, and it was so easy for me to die, and I didn't really have a lot of options open to me as to what I could do. But like I said, as you start to level up and you know, put more points in here or there in your stats, and what type of defenses you have, what type of attacks you have, how many summoned creatures you can summon at a time, these sorts of things, you'll really start to get an understanding as to what makes the game easier. Some summoned creatures are relatively slow, but they have really strong attacks, and other summoned creatures are relatively quick, and they'll always rush ahead of you, but they die really fast. So it kind of requires a balance between the two if you're going to play this game. And you'll learn that balance. Some levels need the hard hitters. Some levels just need something that you can throw at it to kill it. Other levels need like pets where you can really pile on a whole lot of stuff into them. They need large inventories. And other levels, there's hardly anything for you to collect at all. So there's variation, I guess is what I'm getting at. There's a lot of variation in this game as to what you need and don't need for each level that you go through, each level of the dungeon. And, you know, like I said, you've got 2 different realms that you'll be playing through. And by the time you finish the first realm, you'll have a pretty good understanding of what you'll be doing in the second realm. Because it's essentially a repeat of the first. It's just a different it's a different area. You know, the first one, like I said, was forest, and the next one is winter zone. Or you could reverse that. The first one can be a winter zone, and the second one can be a forest. Alright, so when you... How am I going to do this? I'll start by explaining how the actual game is, I guess. Because that's not what I actually played. And I know that now. And I remember that, but I mean, I played this game 15 years ago, so... When you play through this game and you go to each realm, the first level of the dungeon, you're back to level 1 creatures. And you can rush through most of the dungeon, even though it's the second realm you're going to, until you get down to the last few levels. And then you'll want to actually play those levels of the dungeon so that you can level up a little bit, and then take on the level boss. So that's how the original game is designed. And then the final dungeon is the Chaos Dungeon. And it's the same thing there. It's like a third realm, even though it's not a realm in and of itself. And when you go to the level 1 of the dungeon, you're back to level 1 creatures. So, 15 years ago, there were mods for this game. There's still mods that you can get for this game, but they're nowhere near the level of mods that you could get 15 years ago. I actually downloaded and saved the mod that I have, which is a level mod. And it's a level mod for the dungeon monsters, is what it is. It's also kind of a level mod for your own character, I guess. It makes the game... I don't truly understand these mods Don't get me wrong, I really don't. I just know that it makes the game more balanced. That's really all I know about it. And I got it because I remember starting the second realm and I was in the first level of the dungeon and I was back to fighting, level 1 creatures and getting 2 and 3 gold, and I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. So I went and looked for mods, and I found a level mod, not only for the monsters, but it also applies to your items and the loot that you'll find. Essentially making it higher level so that it's got better defenses and things of that effect. So, like I was saying, 15 years ago, these type of things were easy to find. There wasn't a whole lot of people making mods for this game in particular. I mean, there were lots of people that made mods for the more popular games, things like that, but Fate wasn't an unpopular game by any stretch of the imagination. And a lot of the mods that you would find were what I would call understandable mods for people like myself, who realized very quickly that there was no reason for the game to be designed the way that it was. So they went through and adjusted it so that it was more like an actual RPG where you continued to level up, you continued to get better gear, better items, and really they were the same gear and items that you would have found anyway. They were just of a higher level with greater defenses or greater attack power, things like that, so that you could defeat the monsters that were at a higher level. So when you finish the first realm, some of the creatures on the first realm at the 27th level of the dungeon were like level 32. And I believe that's where the creatures started, basically, when you started the new one. Not level 32, but they were like level 28, 27, 28 in the first level of the next realm that you went to with the mod installed. And by the time you got to the bottom of that one, they were like I don't know, it wasn't like maybe 64 was the level of the creature at the bottom of the second realm. Then you might have, or the level boss, or the realm boss. And then you might have had a couple of creatures that were like 65, 66, maybe 67. I don't remember the exact levels of these things. But I remember that the end boss at the bottom of the Chaos dungeon, which is 36 levels, was a level 100 boss. And even with me only being like a level 82, I was able to defeat him. Because I had, like rare gear, rare finds that I had fished for, things like that. So I had good defense, I had good stats, had some pretty decent items, I had quite a bit of health, these sorts of things. So even though I was quite a few levels below the boss's level, I was still able to defeat him. So it was pretty good balancing in that respect. If I was a level 100 or like a level 90, I have no doubt that it would have been a lot easier for me to defeat him. At the level I was, I actually had to, use a little bit of thought to defeat the final boss. Not a whole lot, though. I mean, it's still a relatively easy game. But that was my main gripe when I started playing this game. About 5-6 hours into it, I was like, well, why do it this way? And I understood why they did it that way. It was because you could start on either of the realms, but then the final dungeon didn't make any sense at all, because there's no way that you could get to the final dungeon unless you were unless you'd already completed the prior two realms, because it didn't even open up until you had done that. So to then start you again on level 1 creatures made absolutely no sense for that dungeon, truly. But that's what they did. Today, I went looking for those level mods so that I could tell you where you could find them, and I couldn't find them. I found level editors where you could edit the level of the monsters yourself, but not a mod that did it for you. And that's what I mean about the shrinking internet. And it is shrinking. I realize that people don't quite grasp what that really means. And it has a lot to do with censorship and copyright laws and all this sort of insanity that's been going on lately, and it's only getting worse. One of the things that I noticed pretty early on was the censorship of science. And I know people probably don't understand that, but it used to be you could go on the internet if you had an idea of what you were looking for, scientifically wise. You could find some information on it, true information, relative information. It may be the basics of it, but still relative information to that, category of science. Today, absolutely not. 99% of it is either just blatant lies, or it just can't be found. Period. And that's deliberate. And it's not just science that it's like that with. It's all sorts of things. A good one that I've noticed more recently was tutorials. Basic tutorials, like how to install the game or install a program and its basic functions. How to find files within it, how to save files, those sorts of tutorials. As long as it's a basic tutorial, normally they're correct. But any type of intermediate to advanced tutorials are normally just blatant lies that don't apply to the program that you're using at all. And in some cases are malicious, and if you tried to actually follow the tutorial, it would crash your computer. So, you would think that that's the type of stuff that they would want to remove with censorship, but absolutely not. They leave that stuff up while they delete history channels. And it makes you wonder, why are they deleting history channels? Because somebody spent the time to actually read history books and put that online, and then the government came around and removed all of it. And that's not even a joke. There was a site dedicated to putting history books online. They had put something like 20,000 books from around the world. And the United States government came in and deleted the entire damn library, citing their copyright FCC bullshit laws. Oh, they can't allow that on there. And it was literally originally funded by our government, by our politicians, by the people's will and wanting desire to have that information preserved. That's what started the whole project. And then here we are 20 years later, and the government's like, nope, gone. Zip, zero, nada, it's deleted. Insanity. But this is what our government has turned into. We live under a tyrannical regime, whether you want to believe it or not. It absolutely is. And this regime believes in suppression of information, believes in not teaching the children of this country today. That's why they've continuously changed the laws. No child left behind is not what they say it is. What it means is that if you've got a child in 4th grade who's learned nothing since kindergarten, you have to pass them on to 5th grade. Doesn't mean you have to teach them. Just means you still have to pass them on. That's what that law actually does in practice. That's not the lie that they fed us. That's not what they told us it would do. But that's what it actually does in practice. Common Core, as far as the math part of it, is a joke. It's designed to ensure that children will never be able to learn higher level mathematics because they make it insanely difficult. Way more difficult than it should be. And if you don't do it in their format, you fail. Not that you can actually fail, but they won't give you a passing grade as far as the individual student if they're using traditional means of mathematics to solve problems. You have to do it the way they want it done. And if that's the only way you learn, you will not be able to do higher level mathematics, just period. You won't. When it comes to trig, when it comes to calculus, when it comes to these types of mathematical equations, and these type of mathematical equations are used in everything, people. Everything from engineering to economics. You won't be able to do them. And there was a guy who, and he's been deleted from the internet too, he actually did courses on Common Core mathematics applied to higher level equations. And what would take me 4 or 5 pages to solve with the way that I learned math took him 1,500 pages with Common Core, applying Common Core understandings and teachings. The way that they teach children to do math with the Common Core principles. 1,500 pages is insane. Just absolutely insane. But that's what it required. And he used to do, these videos every 3-4 weeks or whatever. He'd put out a new one. And, YouTube just deleted his whole damn channel one day. Gone. And it wasn't just YouTube. It was several other social media sites that also just gone. Did he break any terms of service? Absolutely not. He was just showing people what these horrible policies have done to our education system. And they deleted him for it because they don't want people to know. And the reality is that there wasn't a whole lot of people who were watching him to begin with. I think his most watched video had 100,000 views. Most of them had anywhere from like 1,000 to 6,000 views. I mean, he wasn't hugely watched to begin with. But they couldn't even handle that. That was too much for them. Too many people were learning the truth, and they didn't want any of his videos to really pop off and people to truly understand just how bad they're screwing this new generation of children. But we see some of them today, graduating from college with their gender studies degree and working as a barista at Starbucks. They spent $100,000 to get a degree that's useless. And even people like AOC, who supposedly got a degree in economics, couldn't explain economics to you if her life depended on it. Period. Because she didn't actually get a degree in economics. She got a degree in communist activism. And that she's really good at. She is an effective activist for communism. If nothing else, that's what that school definitely taught her. But they couldn't put communist activist on her degree, so they threw the label of she learned economics on her degree, even though they absolutely did not teach her economics. There's no way. She doesn't even have the basic principles of economics down. But this is the reality of the world that we live in today. It's a shrinking internet. and it's shrinking because real information is becoming harder and harder to find. Yeah, there's a lot more information on the internet, sure. Most of it's lies and useless. But the actual truth and useful information is becoming scarcer and scarcer and more difficult to find, even if it exists.
Danador retired at level 30 with a renown of prestigious. Gold gathered 19.9 million, 72 quests, 2,585 monsters, and 88 bosses. And we are going to create Descendant as we always do. So, Hero is really what I think is the best, and we're going to do, that's a pretty good name, Morin. And sort of shuffle it until I find something I like. We'll go with that, that's pretty basic. Pet's name, Undalis, is going to be a cat. Alright, and so then it goes through this opening again, so we're going to skip through all this. I just sort of wanted to show you guys what happens when you retire, the bonuses you get. But yeah, you know, since I've already played the game, there's no reason to read all these again. So we come down, and we get a bunch of stuff, so I want to head into one of these just so we can go to a town, make it a little bit easier. But if we go to Druantia, we can check out what we've got going on for our Descendant.
Anyway, that's my rant for the day. I hope that you enjoy the rest of yours. If you could hit the like, subscribe, rumble, follow button, all that does help. And I'll talk to you later.